Hello, this is Dr. Deb Watry. Welcome to week 3. As we take a look at what's in our week, do remember that in week 2 I put some information and resources for you for writing chapter 1. But this is a big week. You're going to start your writing as the researcher, writing chapter 1. And there's the reading is chapter 5 and additional materials, and we have a discussion going on. And looking ahead, these are additional resources for writing chapter 2 and 3. So again, reading chapter 5 this week, which talks about writing that chapter 1. The article that we have for this week is being consistent with what your title says, your problem statement, your purpose and research questions, that they are aligned. And then a short video for you. In week 2, these were the additional resources for writing that chapter 1. Our template that we use for writing, do follow that. How to write that chapter 1, a sample of chapter 1, and this section students sometimes struggle with what are the limitations and delimitations of a study, so do take a look at that. And then how do you do in-text citations. Some of you doing quantitative research will have to develop a null hypothesis in that introduction. So table of contents, to make it easy for you, if it's a Word doc, I do have it as a Word document, I would just copy and paste, start your Word document, and then just change the page numbers as you go through. But these would be the parts that I would be looking for. This is the title heading, Chapter 1, Introduction. And you will be writing a short introduction. So follow the directions that's in the template. Kind of describes what goes into each one. Look at the student examples. Okay, so we're going to start out with, you write out the chapter numbers. So chapter 1, introduction. Everything here, even though it's not in here, everything you do is double-spaced in research. So you start out with about a 2-paragraph introduction, 2-3 parts, and then you get into the statement of your problem. Again, do look at student examples and rely on the BUI text to kind of lay it out. So some things that you want to make sure that your citation is correct as I read through it. You're going to start developing a list of references, and it's in APA format, and that's going to go at the end of your chapter. And you'll just be inserting your chapters, updating your references as you do your writing. So do follow APA guidelines. I do have good information for you, good resources. You don't want to keep having to do your reference page or your citation because you're not following APA format. So your chapter 1 will be 8 or more pages. Generally students are in that 9 to 10 page. The introduction should take about 2 pages. The problem statement, 1 or more, 1.5, 2 pages. Your purpose statement is a very good paragraph. And your research questions, well, they won't exactly be 1 page, but if you're working with quantitative or a mixed study, you do have to explain your hypothesis and your null hypothesis. And then the last part of chapter 1, the assumptions, the limitations, delimitations, definition of terms, and then a summary paragraph. So again, do look at the student samples of thesis. It's in an earlier model, and take time to review what BUI says about chapter 1. Now he lays it out, and this is the old text, so the page numbers might not line up with your number, but you're going to develop 3 problem areas. And remember I said try to get 8 or 9 resources. As you're looking, try to line up your resources with what you see as the problems. So he talks about the statement of the problem. You would divide it into 3 areas. The background and need. So what's the need of this problem in the background? Problem 1, 2, and 3. And then you would explain your background and need. In chapter 2, which is next week, you would then stay with the same format and talk about what literature studies have been done in each of the 3 areas. So it's a parallel ladder strategy. In that first week, I have a resource that says APA resources, so I do not have to put it in every week, but you really do want to take a look at the APA citation basics and the reference list. So this will be very important that you do follow this. I just pulled a page out of the APA Citation Basics. This is how you would use cite one author, okay? 2 authors, 3 to 5 authors, and 6 authors. If you have a source that has more than 6 authors, you can use ETAL right away. An organization with no abbreviation. So once you identify the whole name, you can use the abbreviation throughout. I want to talk about ETAL. It should not show up until you have done the first text citation of listing them all. Okay, so I will look to see that you've listed them all first, and then after that you can use the abbreviation ETAL. Notice the period goes right here. So I'll be very clear on that. That's something that I check in your writing. APA Citation Basics. This is another, just a paragraph example from that resource. Identify your author and the year, usually in that first or second sentence. Don't have your reader have to go all the way to the end of that paragraph to find what source is this from. So you're going to identify it in that first page. And it's a longer paragraph. You identify it in that first sentence or two, and you identify it again at the end. So if a source is cited twice, here we have a longer paragraph, it's cited twice. Anything that you cite in your paper must be listed in your reference. And that's one of the things as I'm reading through your drafts that I will line up. I write down all the authors that you cite. Is it in your reference? If you see this in my comments section to you, and like say I put it right here, this means I'm looking for a citation there. Okay, you didn't get that, you didn't know that information, you found that from some source, so you would have to put your author and your date in there. So this is what source means. I'm looking for a citation there. Verb tense, very important that you get used to this right away. We need to use past tense when you cite other writers, when you write yourself. Everything that you're doing, you're going to write it as if it's already finished. And you cite authors, their studies are already finished. So we're going to say this research studied. Okay, we're going to use past tense. You might use it like, say, the last sentence of your introduction. And you would say, Chapter 2 presents. There's where it would be an example where I would use present tense. Chapter 3 and 4 written in past tense. Chapter 2 in particular written in past tense. So some sample sentences from that APA citation. Smith reported. Smith's study was completed in the past. The previous research showed. Okay, the research is already finished, so past tense. So if I write past tense, that means that you don't have it in the right tense. In your introduction, you're going to define your terms. Okay, define key terms, and you do provide a citation of where that definition is from. So what I will look for in your definitions, you have to alphabetize them. Each one starts with a bullet point, and you need to cite your reference. The last, I would say maybe 2 paragraphs instead of just 1, because you have a whole chapter. How can you summarize that in just 1 short paragraph? So your summary would be to kind of review the problem, review what your focus is of your study. But we get to that last sentence of chapters 1 through 4. Okay, I will in particular look for this. You want to lead into the next chapter. Okay, and we do that for every chapter except chapter 5. So last sentence of chapter 1 will be chapter 2 provides. Notice here's where I said you could use that present tense. Chapter 2 presents. So that last sentence is always a lead-in to your next chapter. And it's because sometimes your chapters could be separated. And if somebody would be reading your research, they would know that this is from a larger study or that there's more information to come. After every chapter, go in and do a page break. Okay, chapter 1, put that in at the end of chapter 1, and then chapter 2 would start on a brand new page. Even when we're doing references, when you get done with chapter 1, put a page break in the references, especially if you're doing something in a Google Doc and you switch it over to a Word document. The margins would be all different. So that page break is essential. When you start putting in things for your appendices, like your approval notice from the IRB committee, the survey you might send to the parents, all of those get titled in your appendices, and you do a page break at the end of every one. So that page break creates a clean start to the next chapter, to the next item in your research. And again, APA format, your references have cited in the research only. So I'll look that your references line up to what you've written in your paper. I want to talk about two things that I really do look for when I'm looking at your references. Of course, we're going to just do abbreviations for names. There should be actually an error. There should be a semicolon between both of these, all of these. Okay, and articles. Do not capitalize every word in an article. Articles are not capitalized. The journals are capitalized and italicized. Articles not capitalized. In our video from last week, I said you need to have the DOI number, or 2 weeks ago, and this is how DOI is abbreviated. DOI.org / and then the number. So I will look for you having the correct DOI. Now, if you don't have a DOI, you want to say where is that source from, you would not say retrieve from UW Superior Library, because a person reading your research might not have access to that library. You would need to find out the website for the journal. Okay, so this journal is the Reading Teacher, and this is the website for that Reading Teacher, and there should be a period here at the, no, I'm sorry, there isn't a period. I want to also notice, again, articles are not capitalized except for this personal pronoun here, but we're using a colon. So when we use a colon, we do capitalize the next word. Okay, so pay particular attention to how you do your references. Here we are already in the writing mode. You're writing your introduction. And remember, I said take your time, chunk your time. Please do not wait to the end of the week to start writing your introduction. Now, you have several parts to do in your introduction. If you're not sure of how to do that introduction paragraph, do your abbreviations, do your questions, do your statement of problem. You don't have to do it in sequential order, but do what comes easiest to you. Okay, so the biggest chapter in your writing is the literature review, which is next week. And again, you should have your articles collected. By now, you should be reading them and doing those critiques, those research critiques. So because you'll be writing about what you found in each of those studies in chapter 2. And then move into the week after that, the methods. So 7:50, we do the introduction, the literature review, and the methods. So I'm excited to read your introductions. I do give you feedback, an opportunity to go back and make changes, but do a good job. This is good information that I've provided for you, and things that will help you in writing that chapter 1. Good luck as you move into that writing stage.